So I've said it before and I will probably end up saying it many more times, but I have a lot of respect for marketing. I think it is so clever because the sheer amount of psychological understanding that you need to have in order to make a successful marketing campaign is so impressive. However, it does kind of sit in the grey region ethically because it's kind of manipulative, but it's not forcing our hand or anything. It's not outright wrong, but it does make me a little bit uncomfortable at how easily these companies can make us consider their brands part of us, part of our identity, and part of how you see yourself as a person. It's very insidious and weird, but I respect it. What we need to do as consumers is equip ourselves with the skills to be able to see through their manipulation. We need to think analytically and critically and try and understand what are they trying to make us do and how are they trying to make us do it. Then we actually stand a chance of not being victim to what they're trying to sell. Got cat hair in my nose. And something I think is so important is that we need to really listen to our own emotional reaction to their claims. Because if you watch an advert and you feel a prick of jealousy or envy or hope or motivation, then that is them manipulating you. And your response to their advert can inform certain things about yourself. You know, if you find yourself feeling jealous when you watch an advert, then there's probably some level of insecurity that you can work on in your own time. Because if we don't use the emotions that we feel to grow and heal, then we'll end up buying something, because that's how they do it. That's what they want us to do. Which leads me on to the main meal of the video, and that is we're going to be looking at some adverts together. And I have chosen perfume adverts because I think it's a very specific way of selling something, because we can't smell anything through the screen. So in order to sell us their perfume, that we can't access the actual experience of using that smell while we're sitting on our sofas. So they create these elaborate worlds and this elaborate branding of trying to make us think that their perfume is like the bee's knees. Logically, a perfume advert would be like, do you worry about stinking? Well, maybe you would like to buy this and it will help the situation. But instead it's always like dreams, hope, desire, Chanel or something like that. So for the adverts that we'll be looking at today, I am going to have to replace the music with royalty-free stuff, and when they speak, I will do that speaking. So I'm hoping that's not going to detract too much from the actual impact of the advert. Okay, so we are going to start off with Natalie Portman in Miss Dior. I love you. Prove it.
And you? What would you do for love?
So lots to unpack here, but I think the most obvious thing to mention is that Natalie Portman is in it. So obviously very high status, and it really sets the idea that Dior is an aspirational brand. They picked someone who we might want to be like, someone who's beautiful and successful and talented, and use them as the center of their campaign. It kind of implies that maybe you, like little old you sitting at home wishing your life was different, maybe you could be like her if you bought what we are selling. And I will just add, little plug, in my song Roll Up, that's what the line "hereby a bottle full of hope" means. This is me showing you the bottle. I heard you find it difficult to cope well, hereby this bottle full of hope. So the advert seems to want to be about love, but it ends up being more about drama and like fighting and making up. And I imagine that choice was because I think that we, particularly in like a social media age and in a world of entertainment, probably are somewhat concerned, very generally across the board, somewhat concerned that our lives are boring, because whatever it is that our lives are day to day, we've gotten used to that. I think it's very common to yearn for a more interesting story. So I feel like by tying the idea of a more interesting story for this like rocky relationship with its ups and its downs, I feel like that would really appeal to a bored consumer, or a consumer who doesn't feel satisfied with their lot. That's one of the things that the advert does really well, actually. I think it balances her kind of feisty independence really well with her kind of somewhat quarrelsome but generally loving relationship. We never get to see this man, but we get to see her seemingly enjoying his company, but we also see her driving with friends and being carefree and being quite rebellious. And I feel like the advert generally covers a lot of ground in terms of what may be aspirational for their consumer. And I have to mention the outfits in this video as well because they're just spectacular. So beautiful. And then she delivers the final line, "And you? What would you do for love?" And I feel that it's a very interesting tactic to end an advert with a question, because the likelihood is that you will be sort of surrounded in a fog of trying to come up with your own answer to the question. Like, it really leaves its mark on you. But it's also just a bit not of a nonsense statement, because I guess what she's really asking is, would you buy this perfume for love? Implying that the gaining of love and the gaining of the perfume are somehow intertwined, but of course they're not. I think what perfume adverts do a lot is they try to sell you a lifestyle. It's like an aspirational lifestyle. They try and tie that with their brand. But I think it's important to remember that at the end of the day, all it is a way to smell like a different smell. I think that's, if we can try and remember that while we're watching those adverts, it does kind of highlight the lunacy of their tactics, but still very clever and very respectful of what they're doing. I think it's an art. It's very clever, but also a little bit funny.
Where will your journey take you?
Oh, so Emma Stone. I love Emma Stone. I think she's wonderful. She's an amazing actress. I think she's really funny. She's got such a sparkly personality and she's so beautiful. Absolutely the right choice in terms of aspirational brands, I think. Like, who wouldn't want to be like Emma Stone? I want to be like Emma Stone. But again, we have this kind of every woman idea where one minute she's in business attire and then she's in a beautiful dress and then she's with a little girl and then she's traveling and then she's on stage. It's kind of like a very beautiful cinematic slideshow as to why her life is better than your life. And it's selling this idea of motivation and excitement, which I think is a very clever tactic, because motivation particularly is a very difficult emotion to rely on. Like, when you do feel motivated, it feels great, but it can be so fleeting. And then if you want to feel motivated, it can be quite an effort to get to that point of feeling motivated. So the implication that you can just buy something that makes you feel motivated, very good. Very clever. So, particularly if you're sitting at home trying to be motivated, or trying to reach a goal, which I feel like most of us are, whatever it is, then if you can feel like by making this one purchase you're going to make yourself work harder, you're going to make yourself strive for bigger things, then that seems like a pretty straightforward purchase to buy. Of course you're going to. You've got this big company telling you that they've essentially bottled an emotion that you want to have, so of course, like, it makes sense as a consumer why you would want to buy that particular thing. And there's also something so carefree about the footage that's used, because she's like barefoot and hair's blowing in the wind. She's going around the world doing all these different things. She seems very calm, but at the same time very in charge of things, which I think is a very desirable state. I think we would all like to be calm and in charge of situations, but life's not always that easy. And just like the Dior one, this also ends on a question where she says, where will your journey take you? And I think that is a superb way to end an advert if what you're trying to do is manipulate your audience. Because we have seen her gallivanting around the world on a carousel with a little girl, working in some suit-wearing place, or going to a bank, or whatever that particular scene is. And by comparison, our journeys feel so small. So to watch someone doing all these amazing things and then have them turn to you and say, where will your journey take you? It plants that kind of pesky seed of insecurity that can haunt us when the advert's over. The advert is basically, look at all these things that you could be. Are you any of those? No? Well, here. That'll be £60. Okay, I think we've probably got time for one more, so we're gonna watch Gigi Hadid in The Girl. Probably the most blatant in terms of exploiting insecurities to make a sale, but I kind of respect it more for that. Obviously you've got Gigi Hadid, who I don't really know her, but I know of her, so I know that she's a big deal because things tend not to filter through to me. So again, we have the high profile celebrity who makes the brand an aspirational one and immediately makes anyone watching the advert instantly inferior to the person that they're watching. And she's being admired by a group of men who remind me quite a lot of the hot cops from Arrested Development, which I enjoy. And obviously they're all in uniform, but she's in the uniform, I'm guessing, of like a higher status person in the Navy, maybe, the Sailors Club. I'm not entirely sure where these people are meant to be placed in terms of the military, but I know that there's something going on there. And I think all of this is a commentary on some form of hierarchy and dominance. So you have all of these men who are doing the sailing, and then you have her who, as you know, all great leaders do, swing on an anchor above their staff. She pushes a man into the ocean and she wins an arm wrestling match. Like she's the coolest one. She is the best one. She's the strongest and the winning. She wins. She's a winner of them. She wins. She has won. So I would say that this advert is being marketed towards a younger crowd because it's quite playful in its tone, but I think that the emotion it is exploiting in order to make it sale is kind of a fear of being invisible or fear of being unattractive, and there's a lot of like power play in it. Also, the fact that the perfume is called The Girl has this sense of mystery and implies that people are talking about the girl, like the way that all of the men are looking at her and the way that the perfume is called The Girl. All of these things kind of play with this idea of mattering, like the girl matters enough to be discussed. And I think that, again, the teenage people, teenagers, that's what they're called, teenagers, they particularly, from my recollection, struggle with the idea of mattering, because at that age it's difficult to know what it even means to matter, let alone how to matter, because we have so many things coming at us telling us that to matter we must be doing this, and in order to, you know, be of any value, this must be the case. And I feel like with all of these mixed messages coming, it's very easy to attribute attention to your worth, to how much you matter. I feel like at that age, and particularly now with social media and likes on these like numerical measurements of attention, I think it's very easy to unintentionally align how much you matter with how much attention you get. And I think that's another concept that's being exploited in this, because we see somebody who's getting a lot of attention. And I would just like to point out as well how horribly this advert would have gone down if it was a bunch of women leering at a man, and if it was trying to sell the message that, you know, if you want the girls to like you, then you gotta smell like this, which is what Lynx used to do in the 90s. It's very dated and for good reason as well. And they're obviously trying to sell this as some desirable state, you know, to be admired by a whole bunch of men while you're trying to like walk down your dock. But how horrible would that be, just to be perved on by that many people, or anyone in fact. Like, I think that's one of the reasons why it appeals to younger people, because to anyone older they would look at that and think, that's horrible, no thank you, like stop looking at me, stop perving at me through your binoculars. But then I also think that it's quite a human trait to want to be admired in some form, probably not in that kind of weird whole bunch of men stopping what they're doing to stare at us kind of way, but just generally would probably all quite like to be admired for some reason or another. So there's that kind of weakness within us, that susceptibility that could be exploited in a marketing context. Anyway, to conclude, if we can work out what it is that they're trying to make us think, then we are much less likely to come away unintentionally thinking that what they've planted in our heads is our own thought. Because the thing is, and this is something that, you know, the big marketing people probably don't want me telling you, but here it is. Here's the truth. You are doing just fine. You don't need the crap that they're selling you, unless you do, in which case it's absolutely fine to make that choice, but do not be made to make that choice without your own permission. These adverts try and tell you that you lack value, and that puts you in this state of thinking like, oh God, I need to do something about this. And then you are primed to make a purchase if you are in that state. But I'm telling you now, I've never met you, but I know for a fact that you're doing fine. You're doing okay. I promise you. If you don't believe yourself, please believe me, you are doing fine. And I want you to play me saying that back in your head every single time you watch an advert and you feel that little emotion. You feel like, oh God, I'm not worthy, or oh God, I'm jealous, or whatever it is, whatever that little prick of emotion is that comes out. I want you to hear me in your head going, you're doing just fine. You're doing just fine. You're absolutely fine. You're great. You're a wonderful human being. Remember that anything worthwhile cannot be bought with money alone, no matter how much these people try and convince you otherwise. So with that said, thank you so much for watching, and thank you to my patrons for your support. It means so much to me, and I will see you very shortly. I hope you're all doing well. Goodbye. This is my new wave. It's very dramatic. What a steal, let's make a deal. I'll keep you well if you keep to healing. What a slogan, so well spoken. I'll make the wound if you keep it open. You could have this life as well if you buy these things that we're trying to sell. Get the girl